Nial DeMena of Manna Molecular Science stops by to say hello and let us know about what he's doing with transdermal patches. He's got a couple of other things in the works as well. And New England is coming alive. So, Nial DeMena. All right, so Nial, it's good to see you.
Good to be here.
I saw you just a couple of weeks ago.
That's right.
Now I'm seeing you once again.
In New York City this time.
Right here in NYC.
Yeah.
Nial DeMena. I'm pronouncing that right.
You are. Got it.
What derivation of human is that?
Italian.
Okay. That makes sense. And then you run Manna Molecular.
I do.
Okay. And what's the derivation of that?
So it was an homage to our Berkshire County operation that we tried to go for a license in Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. And it was an homage to the name. We ran under Manna Wellness. And I didn't realize that we would eventually end up running again as Manna Wellness. So it was to keep the name alive in our heads and to remind us of how much fun we had and, you know, the pursuits that we had in the cannabis industry.
All right. So you're speaking of this in the past tense.
I am.
And I feel like it's current.
It is.
So let's just make sure that we understand. So you went for a license.
We did.
What you get date, time, year?
So it was about 3 years ago,
Right.
right when Massachusetts was opening up its first initial phase of medical dispensaries, RMDs.
Right. The first time.
The first time.
Yeah, the prequel.
Yeah, the prequel. So what we did is my now father-in-law, then my girlfriend's father, he was a successful veterinary owner, 35 years, sold his practice, retired, left a good legacy, but it always was, he's a child of the 60s, and, was interested when his home state decided to change the laws. So he asked me to come out. I was teaching at Virginia Tech at the time, and he asked me to come out to Massachusetts, take some meetings. We went to a couple of NCIA events, and we decided to, investigate going for a license. And from that point, I just hit it really, really hard, and along with my wife, and we got architects. We were trying to do a kind of modular design, and what it ended up being is a prefabricated architecture. We were going to use Aqueon Energy green energy batteries and put up a solar array and be the first ever LEED certified vertically integrated dispensary.
I love it.
Yeah, and we pitched ArcView. We were the second dispensary to ever pitch them, alongside Medicine Man, who was already the largest dispenser in Colorado.
Sure.
So here we were, of Berkshire County, with a lot of chutzpah coming in there and, trying to get money. It earned us a lot of street cred, and that was actually how I got onto Manna Molecular Science, was that when we didn't earn a license, I went over and worked for the Greenway Wellness Foundation for a while, tried to get them a license in Berkshire County. That didn't take.
You're not good at getting licenses.
Well, we are.
Okay.
We'll be getting 3, yes.
Okay.
Massachusetts isn't good at the licensing process.
Oh, right.
Let me just say that.
That's right.
Yeah, and everybody that's been to Massachusetts, shout out to them, knows how difficult it is to get a license in Massachusetts. There's only 3 in operations now.
Right.
And that was 3 years ago that they had that beginning of that process.
All right. Well, let's make sure that we understand why your father-in-law to be would choose you. I would imagine you've got a horticulture background, an agriculture background.
Not at all. In fact, I'm a quick learner. I never felt utilized in my full talents. I took on, I tutored 2 kids in Pittsburgh before I went to Virginia Tech and got my master's paid for.
Wait a second. All right, let's start over. Let's go all the way back, because you're bringing up things like Pittsburgh and Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
And we know that you're based in New England,
I am.
and Maine and Massachusetts.
Yeah, I've been all over the place.
What the heck's going on here? So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Maine, in
Okay.
Scarborough. So that's right outside of Portland. So it's
Beautiful there.
It is. It's one of my favorite places, and I like to go back there as many times as I can this summer.
Right.
So I grew up there. I went to Colby College.
Small liberal arts.
Yeah, I got a really good deal there. I was 2-time All-State in football, so they knew who I was.
Oh, wow. What position did you play?
And tailback.
Oh, so you're fast.
Yeah, I was also scouted by the Pirates, Pittsburgh Pirates.
That's a baseball team.
I know, when I was a freshman in high school.
Oh, so also baseball.
Yeah, also baseball.
Okay, you're not misspeaking. No.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I know the difference between the two sports.
Fair enough. And what position in baseball?
I pitched, but I was mainly center field.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you are really fast.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I used to run a 4.640.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty fast, professional level, not so much, but...
Oh, no, just for like humans.
Yeah,
For
for
regular
humans, quite quick.
that's pretty
Yeah,
fast.
yeah.
Exactly.
So I went to Colby College. That's where I met my wife, Julia Germain. And, basically, I knew I didn't want to necessarily be put in some career track. I was an English major there. I did very well in that respect. I like to read books, and that was my only, thing that I knew I wanted to do.
But you're supposed to be a jock. We're putting you in a box, right?
Right.
You're supposed to. That's all you're supposed to care about.
Well, I always took a lot of AP classes growing up. Yeah. I was always put, gifted and talented classes as well. And it wasn't because my parents were heavily involved. I grew up in a single parent household, so it was me scoring really well on tests.
Wow.
And so they were like, you should be in these classes. And so I just kind of rolled with it. And that's, eventually how I ended up at Colby. So, I didn't really know what I was going to want to do. I took some government classes. I found the professors pretty rude. Uh-huh. And, it didn't really interest me that much. I took some economics classes. There were a lot of people that had a track to go to Wall Street, and that was fine, but It wasn't for me.
Why not? Smart guy, pick up things quickly.
Economics is really, really dry and really laborious and really tedious. And, I don't think I was mature enough to go through the class schedule, and it was really competitive too. So it was kind of like you're buying into a lot more than just economics. You're really trying to fight out all the other people for the same pool of recommendations that would get you onto a Wall Street job.
I see. And then what years are these that you were in school?
2007, 2003 to 2007.
Oh, you're young. You're like a young person.
Yeah, I just turned 31 on November 20th.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I also have a birthday in November.
Oh, great.
So, yeah, there you go. What if I may? You said single parent household.
Yeah.
I feel like we should hear about that.
Sure. No, my mom was a research nurse. My father left me when we were really, really young. And, we grew up in a trailer park in Maine. And, I basically...
Just the two of you? Or?
Just the two of us.
Right.
And, I was just very precocious. I read a lot, took a lot of good classes, was also a standout athlete. So that really helped me, socially and academically, was to have that kind of fully integrated life. And, the home life was fine. It made me learn to cook for myself a lot sooner. So that helped.
What dish is your specialty?
Well, I certainly grew up loving to make pancakes. So
okay.
I love but, I can make a whole lot of things. I make some really good homemade tacos, where you actually blend up, the Mexican chilies.
Oh, wow.
You can do it all the way.
Yeah.
So, there's a whole bunch of stuff I can make. But so from Colby, my girlfriend and I wanted to stay together. She had offers to go to Ohio State for a PhD in plant biology. She didn't want to do GM potatoes.
Well, she makes sense in this partnership.
Yeah, she does make sense.
I don't mean this matrimonial partnership.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So she also had an offer to go to poetry school, and they were going to pay her.
This is just a bunch of smart people hanging around each other.
So
is what this is.
She went to University of Pittsburgh for 2 years. I ended up getting a teaching position privately with Nicholas Schultz and Brigitte Schmidt. One of them is she's a research faculty at CMU. She does bioluminescent dyes. She's really smart. Yeah.
Cool.
And then her husband is a ER physician at Shadyside, but he's also an organic chemist, and he worked on Taxol. So they're just really, really industrious people. I got their son into CMU. I mean, I didn't, but he was very smart, and we got him in when he was 16.
You shepherded him.
Yeah, sure. I mean, they were homeschooled their entire life, so it was a lot of work those 3 years, but it was good for me, good for them, but they were kind of my professional mentors. And they saw a lot of potential in me, and kind of, when I got the kids into college, younger than they were supposed to be, they encouraged me to move on and do something, that I would enjoy. And again, not really knowing what my career path was going to be at the time, I went to Virginia Tech, and they accepted me at the grad school for writing and rhetoric. So I went, they paid my way, because one thing I wasn't going to do was to take on more student loans to go to school.
Sure.
And then midway through my last year in the master's program, 2-year master program, I love teaching, and I was working at the Writing Center. I was potentially going to take over there, but I get this call and said, "Hey, come on out to Massachusetts. We'll see about this dispensary." And that was the first time that I ever felt fully engaged intellectually and fully challenged. And what we did is, we exceeded the expectation that my father-in-law had. And, we made him decide how much money he wanted to invest. And, we just kept going. We got Denver Leaf Consulting with us.
Sure.
We really pushed the boundaries. We got endorsed by the local Berkshire newspaper, probably within the first week of having any interaction with any of the people there. We held a lot of community meetings, so we became a big thing in the community, and everyone wanted us to win. We got letters from the mayor, from everybody, and Massachusetts kind of botched that process, but we made a lot of good friends in the process.
Yeah. Well, let's just kind of dive in. I want to unpack a few things here.
Let's do it.
As far as let's just start where we ended. The community, we've spoken with Ian and Kayvon, and I know that they're big on, investing in the community, making sure that the folks understand who you are, and that you understand who they are.
Yes.
What were the types of things that you did to kind of weave yourself into the fabric of that community?
Well, we went to a lot of community events. We held a community forum and invited people, and it was election season, so it was like a big thing. We tagged along at some, political events for people trying to get elected, and beyond that, we were just very open about our intentions and our plans about what we wanted to do. We got, drawings of the facility up. We were meeting with the city on a regular basis. And really what it's doing is it puts a lot of pressure on the civil servants who might not know much about cannabis. So you have to have a lot of, early, often meetings with people to just, clear the air, know that you're well-intentioned, that you're trying to do this by the book, and that there is a place for this in this community. And, I found people are really receptive to that. And a lot of people come in, who are a lot more opportunistic and don't have the kind of patience to sit down and have those meetings, to help inform people and to give them a sense of who you are. And so, we really kind of felt like people from the community. Julia's, my wife's grandmother lives on October Mountain. So she was been in the Berkshires since 1974.
Okay.
So we felt like we had a good connection to the community, the family did, and we went from there. And we felt we put in a good application. We scored a 120 out of 163, and they really didn't give us any consideration for the small type of community that we were going for. And it felt like the first preference of the DPH in Massachusetts was to take higher scoring groups in metropolitan locations, and when they lost to higher scoring groups, to ship them out to the smaller communities.
Oh, I see.
So that's what I did after we lost. Is I worked for one of these organizations, and we got them through the special permitting process. I was signed for an 11-week contract. I had everything done by week 4. So I was really...
You like to finish things quickly.
Yeah, well, I like to do my job.
School when he was 16, you like...
I mean, listen, you only have so many years in life. You gotta get to it.
Are you impatient?
I'm very impatient, yeah.
Okay.
With myself, most of all.
Understood.
Yeah.
But not too much that you won't get the job done. You're just impatient for it to take a long time.
Well, I'm impatient in the things that I know I can control.
Well, what about when it involved this other kid? Just let's go back to the kids that you got into school. That involves another human.
It does.
So, and a young person.
Yeah, no, but he was, he scored very highly on all his tests, and we prepared him for that. He was doing very well in school, and I just tried to challenge him the way I felt challenged when I was that age. Where
specifically how?
So we would take college level textbooks and go through physics problems from those. We did a automated mousetrap one time using Arduino boards. So it was just trying to make him do something that was more integrated in terms of projects.
Yeah.
So you
literally expand his mind.
Yeah, well, you learn a lot more when you go from book to project, because it's actually like, this is something I need to accomplish in the material world around me. And you can use whatever resources are available to you to get that done. Right? It makes you more resourceful, and it makes you find ways to circumvent problems that you encounter along the way.
Right.
Hey, my parents only, they're not going to give me $100 to get this, so how am I going to get it done? You just become, you become smarter about how you deal with problems. And, I think that, it was invaluable type of learning for someone that young.
Absolutely. And so that's you as a teacher. Now, you as the actual, person doing the job.
The doer.
The doer, turn 11 weeks into 4. How did you do that?
Well, I just knew that what they needed me to do was to get a letter of support for them. They needed me to integrate them in the community. And one of the things that the community had done at that point was really trust Manna Wellness. And because of that trust, when the DPH didn't elect us and they issued guidance that this is what they wanted to have happen, we kind of had a meeting of the minds with the group and said, okay, these are the people that are invited back for this licensing process, and they are available to come here to this community because it's still open. And then the law was written, at least one dispensary per county, even though they didn't end up following that.
But that's a whole different
story.
Yeah,
that's a whole different story. But we invited them out, and of the groups that were out there, I thought that the Greenway Wellness was the most willing to jump into the community and do the types of things that we wanted them to do. So, we donated to the farmers market. We donated to Shakespeare in the Park, which is the first time that they did that in Pittsfield, and it was a big community event. And John Green, who was the CEO of the Greenway Wellness, got to be on stage in a cameo performance.
Oh, wow. Of what play?
It was, what was the play?
Because Pittsfield, it's a pretty rich, because of Tanglewood and all the
they did
rich in culture. So to hear it was Shakespeare in the Park for the first time in Pittsfield.
They did Romeo and Juliet this year, and I don't know why I can't remember what they did last year. Midsummer's Night's Dream. Oh, sure.
Yeah. What do you remember? What part he got to read for? Or?
I don't. It was very much. It's like towards the end, and it was a bit part. But it was reserved for the people that made a certain level of donation, and it wasn't much compared to what they were willing to spend as an organization. But it was one of those things that it was the first. They were really trying to get it off the ground as a community, and it had mayoral support. And it seemed like, hey, everybody's gunning for this. This is a good chance to show that we want to be a part of the community. So we did a couple of things like that, and, just very smart with our dollars and with our philanthropy and how we approach the community. And so that's how I got it done in 4 weeks instead of 11.
There we go. So now you've got it done in 4 weeks. Your contract's up. Or at least you've got 7 more weeks if you want them.
Right. No, so we went through, and they were going to bring me onto the organization, and I was ready to do that. And then their bank account got shut down.
You're kidding.
No, and then they got kicked out of the licensing process because of that.
Right. Because all of that makes sense.
Right. So regardless, I was kind of left in the lurch, having, worked really hard to bring somebody to the Berkshires and then having nothing at the end of it to show for it.
Right.
And no prospects. So, it was right about that time,
what am I
gonna do? I really enjoyed what I did. I made a lot of good impressions on people. And as I was thinking about what I was going to do, out of the blue sky comes Michael Kahn of MCR Labs, who was running one of the only testing labs in Massachusetts, which is required by law.
Indeed.
So because there were no dispensaries getting up and running anytime soon, he asked me if there were any projects that we had, because we got along great during the application process. And, I said, perfect. As the DOO of Manna Wellness, I had all these kind of blue sky projects in mind.
Spell that out for us.
What?
The DOO?
Director of Operations.
Oh, thank you.
So as the Director of Operations, it was my job to get, the product line off the ground. And one of the blue sky projects was either an ophthalmic drop or a transdermal patch.
Oh, so all the way back then you're talking about that.
Yeah.
Now, why? How did that come in?
Well, it came in because, being in Berkshire County in a small dispensary market, you kind of have to do things that fit like the cultural personality of the place, but also, can be kind of breakthrough that can give you attention and drive more people to your site.
Sure.
And so one of the
Isn't it more the latter than the former, though?
It is, but at the same time, one of the opportunities you have in a small market is to do more experimental things.
Sure.
People are more willing to be patient, and because of there's less of an opportunity cost if things fail. So that was why I was kind of thinking about these projects, and I was waiting till we got an operating license to do that. But then when we didn't, out of the blue sky comes Michael Kahn, and I say, hey, ophthalmic drops, transdermal patch, and he was like, and I was like, well, these ophthalmic drops, a lot of them are very cheap, they're like $10, and they work really well. So it doesn't, and it's also, if people go into a dispensary, they're not going to buy something to put in their eyes. I mean, that might be in the future, people might have enough trust to do that, but as of right now, not so much.
Is that the basic reason why they work so well, is because they go direct?
Yeah, I mean, it would be a soft ester. So, and I think that's right. But basically, it would take an inert form of the molecule, and when you dropped it into your eye, it would change in the body into something active. So that was the principle behind an ophthalmic drop. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't want to do that, and transdermal patch was available. And what I read, it seemed like a really optimal form of delivery for the types of illnesses that people want to treat in Massachusetts and in other states, such as MS, such as Crohn's, such as chronic pain, ALS, things like, that require a baseline amount. And we had somebody in the Berkshires that we met who had a very academic case of Crohn. He was written about, published several papers on him, and he was in pretty bad shape all the time. Yeah. And if he wasn't smoking or vaporizing, he got in trouble real quick. Yeah. And so something like the patch wasn't available then, but would be perfect for someone to wear on them so that if they didn't bring a bunch of joints with them or forgot their vaporizer at home, that they wouldn't become really, really ill. So it kind of came out of that. It also came out of when I was growing up, my aunt who had MS lived with us, and we got her on the main program when I lived there, and she tried vaporizing, tried smoking, and she felt she ran at a cognitive deficit when she was doing that and didn't like it because of it. Mm-hmm. So I was already kind of thinking about ways that people like her would, adopt cannabis and transdermal patch because of the consistent level of cannabinoids that you can deliver into the plasma, and because it goes into systemic circulation and doesn't really require anything as far as patient adherence. You just put something on your body and it sticks. Mm-hmm. It seemed ideal for all of those reasons.
What's the ratio that you came away with, or that you had in the first one, or that you have now?
As far as like THC? Yeah, I mean, we're looking at 10, 20 milligrams. So we want something low dose. We want something consistent. We want something that people can, so I think there are multiple types of people that would want to use this. Young professionals, mm-hmm. People that, might have some sort of ailment. They don't want people to know about it. They don't want people, especially, to know that they're treating it with cannabis, mm-hmm. but they want to treat it with cannabis. They don't want to smell in the workplace. They don't want, they want to be discreet about it. So there's that type. The traveling professional, mm-hmm. Traveling with this can be, really difficult. It can raise alarms, and if you have patches, no one's looking twice, no one's thinking about that.
You're saying traveling with flour, traveling with
exactly,
a vape pen, that's going to raise
exactly.
Well, but if it's a patch,
if it's a patch, no one cares about it, right. And it can still give you the dose. So I know a lot of people, when I was looking into this as a delivery mechanism, a lot of people are telling me how they love patches because they can bring them with them when they travel. And then I think elderly and infirm patients, a lot of people in hospice care who are getting treatments for this, for cancer, for instance, can't eat. Mm-hmm. They have a really difficult time eating. So transdermal patches in the past for pain are often a perfect form because it helps them get an appetite and want to eat again.
Yeah. Almost immediately.
Yeah, almost immediately. Yeah. And so, and people that are elderly, I think they have a variety of chronic ailments that, could establish, you could treat that with a small baseline that wouldn't interfere with their lifestyle, would allow them to interact with their friends, allow them to feel better, and alleviate, the pains of growing old, which is, knee pain, shoulder pain, inability to sleep, all those types of problems. My wife's grandmother's 89 years old, and I see firsthand, and she's amazingly smart for her age. However, she does have all these kind of bodily issues, and something like this could be a simple way to alleviate those without going into opiates, without taking higher and higher doses of anti-anxiety for sleeping sometimes.
Right.
So,
let alone anything else.
Exactly.
So you come to a decision as far as the drops. You're no, we're not going to go with drops.
Right.
All right. So bring us back up to speed. You're okay. We're going to go with the patches. Give us a time frame. When is this? When you're first getting in?
So I was thinking about this around August. I was talking last year.
Of 14. Okay.
Yep. And then it was about October of 2014 that I said that I talked to Michael Kahn, and he brought on Michael Frid, who is an MIT PhD from in organic chemistry, and
So
he lives in Cambridge.
Yeah, we'll take him.
Yeah. And it was like, do you think you can do this? And we had we had them write out a prospectus. They told us how much money they would need to do it. And, I went to a couple investors. We found $200,000 and, said, okay, let's form the company and do this. So we wrote up an operating agreement. I brought on Hamilton, Brooks, Smith & Reynolds, which is an IP firm, to do RP. I brought on Cohen Kin, Valicente and Cook, which is a corporate law firm out in Berkshires. They're very good. And, we kind of just assembled this. And by January, we had the operating agreement signed. We had everything, ticked off. And, we started in on the lab work.
Mm-hmm. Under what name?
Under Manna Molecular Science.
All right. So you bring Manna back. And
yep.
What is the original reasoning for using Manna?
The original reasoning is just an homage to the dispensary that we never got.
Right, but the original...
the original... Yeah, the reason why we picked it is we thought it was a good name. It references manna from heaven, which sustained the Israelites in the desert, and it came very fortuitously to satiate them and to keep them from starving. And we kind of felt that way about, cannabis, is that a lot of people... could really benefit from this medically, and it's kind of like this, ray of sunshine. And we, always talked about it in terms of that manna feeling, and it's really just kind of an idea of what this could be to somebody who really needs it.
Love it. All right, so Manna Molecular Science, we're a go.
Yeah, we're a go. And, we're doing a difficult test. So, obviously, Mary's Medicinals had that, had their patch out.
Transdermal patch.
Transdermal patch, yeah. And
spoke to Lynn Hundreds from there, yeah.
No, I mean, they definitely put the patch front and center in terms of products.
Mm-hmm.
So we were looking at them, and we thought that, hey, there's opportunity for us, in the market to do this.
Sure, especially in the Northeast. I mean,
and there's, we feel like there's a lot of room for improvement.
Mm-hmm.
So we started work on it, and through that, it was great because we had an analytical lab to work at that was fully equipped to handle cannabis testing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had somebody who was a formulation chemist, so somebody that could design this and has designed pharmaceuticals before. And then halfway through that, we brought on somebody else that was a friend of theirs by the name of Jeffrey Skell. And he was a senior scientist at Genzyme for 10 years. And he was very skeptical coming on about, how a transdermal patch for this particular molecule could work. There's a thing called the octanol water partition coefficient, log P for short. And the traditional ideal range for a transdermal candidate would have a log P of -1 to 3. And cannabis or cannabinoids are very lipophilic and hydrophobic, meaning that they have log P of somewhere around 6. And that's on a logarithmic scale, so it's way out of the ideal range.
Completely.
Right. So they were skeptical coming on, but, with Jeff Skell, who had done drug design and pharmaceuticals and formulation work.
Big pharma.
Yeah, big pharma. Came on, and, we really saw a pretty instantaneous benefit from his coming onto the project. And, that was about April, and I would say by June we had a working prototype that had the excipients that we wanted, and excipients are everything but the active that helps the active do the thing that it's supposed to do.
The non-A.
Right, exactly. So we had this formulation, we had a patch, and with a few volunteer patients and some skin stripping analysis and analytical testing, we were able to tell that it was working. And from there, we've essentially just linked up our supply chain. We are trying to get, and I think I'm very hopeful that we'll officially bring Ken Miller on, who was the inventor of the fentanyl patch, who we had as a consultant going through, so that we knew that we were on the right track.
Right.
But now he wants to lead the project and do so in a public manner, and it's really exciting because transdermal patches really, I think, are a type of delivery form that the masses can really get behind.
Right. You're not smoking cannabis.
You're not smoking cannabis. You don't smell.
Medicine.
Yeah. You don't smell. You can. It goes under your clothes. It works kind of like magic. It comes. We put all this work in so that we can replicate this wondrous product, and people just can put it on and it works. And that's the wonderful thing as far as patient adherence, as far as people who don't necessarily see themselves in cannabis but are very curious. They can jump in, put a patch on, and feel an effect, but not an overwhelming effect.
And that brings up dosage. If you're talking about curious, where do you start and where do you go to?
So we always like to go low before anything.
Start low,
yeah, start
slow.
low and go slow. You know the drill.
Oh, sure.
And so we wanted to do a 10 milligram, 20 milligram. We'll probably end up making a higher dose patch for
Sure.
different people. And
For medical, you have to.
Yeah, absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. And what you can do is actually change the size of the patch.
Oh, okay.
That the more surface area it has on the skin, the more contact it has, and the quicker it can absorb. So it's we can actually load higher and make a bigger patch and actually have it work faster. But we're trying to do small doses because it's something that, you don't want to have red eyes. You want to be able to answer phone calls from your friends, your family, your bosses, your coworkers, and, have the benefit. So it's like one of those things where, what do I want in my lifestyle? How does that fit with cannabis industry? And how is the market not addressing that need? And the transdermal patches seems to answer all of those questions.
Ticks all those boxes. So you spoke of your supply chain. You're based in New England. There are 23 or so medical states. You have to have a license in each of those. And there are 4 adult use states.
Right.
I'm getting at, what do you mean by your supply chain?
Well, so what we did is we wanted to design something that could work for vertically integrated states.
Fine.
And if it works for vertically integrated, we can still do it in non-vertically integrated states. So we designed the process with a process in mind whereby the dispensary in one of these vertically integrated states could apply the active. So we would supply everything, they would supply the active, and be able to coat that onto the patches themselves.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
It's basically a finished product. Now here's your active and done.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we designed a process.
So you can literally ship them all over.
Yeah, we can ship them to any place in the United States or abroad, and the end user, can apply the active. And what we've done is we set a list of preferences for the types of extraction methods that we prefer. We like to high purity, supercritical, de-waxed. That's our number one.
Fair enough.
Because it's clear, it's light, and it requires less liquid.
Sure.
But it can work with BHO, PHO, all of those.
And so you're not taking a stance on extraction, essentially?
No, because one of our chemists is developing some extraction equipment that I think is going to blow everybody out of the water.
So we'll get to that
Yeah,
later.
yeah.
That's our next thing.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
But it does call to question, if you're letting the extraction happen and the application happen kind of on site, doesn't that make the product imperfect with all of your, big pharma folks and MIT folks? Doesn't that drive them crazy?
No, I mean,
Do you see what I'm getting
yeah,
at?
no, I mean, the whole cannabis industry drives them crazy, to
Well,
be honest.
sure. Yeah, we take that.
Right.
We understand that as given.
But, what we found is that we can really hit a specific window with this. It's great having an analytical chemist who can, understand what it takes to dose it. We've done reconciliation studies in the lab, so we know how much we're losing. We're at about 98% reconciliation, so that's very good for this type of product. We have done enough studies on the dosing accuracy of the method that we developed so that we can feel very confident that, within, a couple of, within like a tenth of a milligram, a couple tenths of a milligram, that we're getting the right amount on.
And I don't mean to be annoying about this.
No.
Or put you on the spot, pun intended. But if you're not doing that in your lab, then how do you know that it will be within a tenth of a...
So they have to do what is basically per batch. They have to send things out for the lab to testing, and they
in
have
their own lab, though.
at the state sanctioned lab.
Fair enough.
And a lot of
Which
the
are coming
states,
online.
we're basically using the
Current system for what it is.
exactly. So
Totally understand.
all of these operators have to get testing anyway,
Right.
and so this is as a product they're going to have to get tested.
Yeah.
And what we've done is we've designed not only a process for applying the oil, but we've developed a back-end process to send to the labs for this is how we want to test it.
So you've given them all the tools. All they have to do is the one thing. They test as their state tells them to, and as as prescribed, and as the process itself, state by state, gets more perfect, so will your product, essentially.
Well, I mean, we know how much is getting on there. We know that it's working.
Right.
The next step would be to automate a big system, and obviously that's the goal for us, is to set up in a state where we can set up a normal traditional transdermal manufacturing line. And in normal pharmaceuticals, and transdermal specifically, you would build out a big machine that would do would take the backing, the roll stock, and run it through, and you would coat it with the adhesive. The drug would be in the adhesive.
Right.
You would die cut it in the same line, and you would package it in the same line.
Sure.
And the throughput is the packaging. So normally you would start with the packaging and work backwards. We plan on doing that. We're going for operators licenses in Massachusetts and Maryland, so we feel good about being able to do that. And that's one of the reasons why, from the operator side, we found it was very important to be involved as a company, because what we can do now is Manna Molecular Science can build a lab in Manna Wellness and get all of our chemists registered as dispensary agents, and then they can have hands-on with the material, do R&D, and we can move into automation very quickly.
Separate entrance and egress.
Yep.
So to use the medical and adult use rules
Yeah.
from Colorado for two different types of companies for Manna.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so obviously you see the future. What are your thoughts on, okay, Massachusetts, yes, okay, Maryland. What are you going to wait on? What are you not going to wait on? Are you going to, go into Washington and Oregon? Like what, without kind of giving away the secrets.
Yeah, no,
if you will.
we're ready. We just have to essentially take our suppliers. We have a company that's formulating the patch and doing the die cutting of the patch for us. So they send us this, what we are calling the placebo patch. It's basically the blank patch loaded with the excipients ready for the application of the oils. So we have them ready to go. We just have to tell them how many to make, and it's about 2 to 3 months. And same goes for all of our packaging suppliers. So
What day is go day?
well, what day is go day is we are about to raise another $250,000, which isn't much, but it's really all we think we need at this point to put in the large purchase orders and get the party started, so to speak. But we have people in several states that are interested in signing licensing agreements. It's at my IP firm right now, and when I get back from Thanksgiving, I hope to see an email in my inbox and maybe a scheduled call, so that we can go over the final draft of the licensing agreement.
There we go.
That's the last component, and we feel really strongly about the direction that we're headed, and we feel strongly about the fairness of the licensing agreement, and we feel strongly about the product. It's got a great margin, it scales well, and we are kind of envisioning this as with the team that we have being updated, like, on your MacBook where you get software updates, we want to constantly update the formulation, the process, and keep it very inexpensive buy-on costs. So, we want to incentivize people for buying it. And that's one of the things I really am excited about is that, we think that this is an everyday type of use product. And we're encouraging people to buy more, like in 30-day supply, a 2-week supply, so that, you can really be comfortable with putting this on your body on day in, day out basis. And that is where I see, the medical benefit going forward. And it's one of those projects that, the FDA likes these types of.
Well, they're used to this.
They're used to this.
Right.
And so is in the medical establishment.
Right.
And it's a good way of delivering a therapeutic dose of cannabinoids. So we feel like we can eventually take a backdoor to pharmaceuticals, if not, have some sort of exit with a pharmaceutical acquiring Manna.
Oh, you're looking for an exit.
Well, not necessarily, not yet, but
Nial,
that
kid.
Well, no, I mean, that's, I remember Leslie Boxscore saying,
right.
When you get into it, you always have to have a plan for an exit.
Right.
And, that's one of our plans.
He said that very, very loudly and very clearly.
He did.
As Leslie does.
Yeah.
And Electrum Partners, and of course, he's been on the podcast as well. And if anybody's listening now and you don't know Leslie, he's the one with the eyebrows.
He is.
Now everybody knows who he is.
Yeah, he's a really, although intimidating to look at, and his pictures are very intimidating.
Well, he's a big bear. He's He's like the warmest guy that there is.
Yeah, no, he's fantastic, and he's incredibly smart, and certainly knows the industry in and out. And I'm happy that he's taken such a important role as the chairman of the Nevada Cannabis Industry Association.
Absolutely. You said backdoor to pharmaceutical. Isn't this the front door?
I think the front door would be to just jump in. I know something like Zenerba. They're a company that's trying to use THC Pro drug to deliver cannabinoids transdermally.
Right.
And they're based in New York. So that would be the front door where you try to raise, 15 million, go into the lab, try to do it the pharmaceutical way.
Right.
And, the risk is a lot higher. And, to be honest, even if it gets approved, the user base is going to be people from the cannabis industry. So we'd rather develop the distribution network, the user base, and then move. Yeah, exactly. And then move into the pharmaceutical and make those improvements and bring those people with us. If not, we'll still have the option, through the normal legal channels.
So it's this center fielder tailback, from a trailer, and English major who likes to read.
I knew I wasn't going to have a regular life like everybody else.
But pharmaceutical, you're a pharmaceutical guy.
Hopefully, yeah.
Do you find this strange that this is where you've wound up?
Yeah, I think it's very strange, but, I always knew I was destined for something, on the fringes. And
why do you say that? I need to press you there.
Because my life was so bizarre growing up. A lot of people, in the town that I grew up in, a lot of people were upper middle class, and, to fit in with those people and to, be a standout athlete and beating out other people's sons for those positions and stuff, and then also, just going to college and kind of trying to figure out who you are and what you want to do. I just knew that, there were certain pipelines, certain career pathways that people wanted to. And what I've always done is always kind of depended on my own wits to, figure things out for me as I go. And
is it that, or is it that you're contrarian?
No, I don't like contrarians. I'm not contrarian. No.
I see.
No, I'm very much in support. I like people getting things done. So I will support, plans to do things. What I don't like is, a lot of, and why I didn't like academics was it's so theoretical and not applicable. And that's really what made me hungry for work when I started working in cannabis industry was, these are applicable things. Like I can go out, I can find out how, from agriculture, how a grow works. And you can, there's all this knowledge to be brought from other industries into this one. And so it's a great hybrid of all the different talents that you have. And it takes a certain type of individual with a certain, level of risk tolerance to jump in and be able to confidently pick from different places and different sources of information and put that together into a vision for, cannabis. And we did that on the operating side. And I found that one of my talents as an individual was, being able to have a vision, a very coherent vision, but also to get the talent required to execute on that.
Right. And you've gone top shelf.
Yeah, I mean, well,
concerned.
that's the only way people are going to trust the product, and that's the only way that you can take it back toward a pharmaceuticals is if you start doing it the right way from the beginning. And nobody's going to trust somebody who's just a marketing company with a product that is kind of recreational, kind of not. You kind of have to be smart about the design of the company and the mission and the vision of the company and the brand integrity from the very get-go. And so we tried to consider all those factors heading in. And, also my chemists right from the get-go were like, we've seen situations where the business side takes over and the product side is lost. And so, I was very conscious of those types of decisions as a CEO headed into this, saying, we want to be a product first company. We want something to work like magic when the end. We want an elegant product, but that consistently does what it says it does, and aren't going to tolerate anything less. And we feel like the iteration that we have now satisfies those main criteria. We think that it's going to get better by leaps and bounds over the next year.
Right.
But for what it is now, it's a great product. It works well. We worked very hard on the adhesive, and that's a very important part of a transdermal to make sure that it goes on easy, stays on, has good skin contact, and then also peels off. Because, that's one of the impediments to using on a regular basis. If you're leaving blotches on someone's skin or, it doesn't make their skin feel good, I'm not going to wear this 2 days in a row. I'm not going to wear it. Exactly. I can't. Yeah. And, so those types of small details, have a cumulative effect that, makes the difference between, you getting the loyalty of that person or not. And, I have people like my aunt in mind who, is very, has MS, but she's very smart and she's very particular about how things fit in with her life. And so that is the type of person that I want working with me on patches to tell me, and other products that can tell me, I don't like this, and here's why.
Yeah, here's exactly why.
Yeah, and here's what I want.
Yeah.
And those are the types of people that I try to surround myself with, people that are going to be my worst skeptics.
Right.
Because it's that type of scrutiny that's going to end up, giving me a bulletproof product.
Would your wife call you a perfectionist?
I would say I'm getting there.
What does that mean?
It means that I probably, at the end of this, by the time the patch is on the market, I will be a bona fide perfectionist. But, right now...
I love it. The product's not perfect yet, so I'm not a perfectionist.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how I'm defining myself right now.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so what is she doing with the company? What's your father-in-law doing with the company?
Oh, sure. My father-in-law is an investor.
Right.
So I was really happy that he believed in me from the operator side, even though we lost.
Yeah.
He was very happy with the work that we did and that I did specifically enough to put money in. He's now an investor in Manna Wellness. We're going for 3 licenses in Massachusetts.
Yep.
I'm working with Ted Rebholz. He's my Chief Strategy Officer for MMS. When I told him we were going for Massachusetts, he said, "Oh, hey, I'm going for New Hampshire." He won 2 there out of the 4. Yep.
2 of the 4.
Yeah, so he ended up winning those while we were putting our application in together for Massachusetts. So it worked out very well.
Sure.
So we feel like we're in a bigger market now. It really would have been scary had we been licensed because it took so long to get the program up and running.
It's almost better that it worked out this way.
It is, because a lot of those groups, they worked really hard. They got their licenses, and I've just been hemorrhaging money ever since. Yeah. And it's scary from that position. That's part of the risk of this industry is you don't know how quickly these states will be able to get these things up and running.
Yeah. How high is your risk tolerance actually?
I mean, it's very high. I just, this started with an idea to do a transdermal patch, and here I am, 10 months later, sitting here with a patch ready to go. But, it was a very risky proposition to design something that technical. I mean, you could do edibles, you can do oils, you can do extraction. I mean, all of that stuff has been done, but this is, you're kind of venturing out in the open. And if you're not following, the predecessor, I mean, we didn't say, oh, let's be a copy of Mary's. It's like, let's go to the drawing board and let's figure out a way to do this and do it the way that we want to do it.
Yeah.
And so that is the way we're going to differentiate our product from theirs. And, I really appreciate the job that they've done bringing it to the attention of the people. But I think that there's a lot more room to grow as the market to get people more comfortable with patches and have, a a bigger variety of people out there supplying them.
I mean, by definition, nearly every single person that we've spoken to on this podcast is a competitor.
Yeah.
So we're happy to talk to everybody
Sure.
about every
No,
product. What is your wife doing for the college?
Yeah, so I don't mean to skip over that because
Yeah.
she's extremely talented, and we compete pretty often about and it's fun in a way because our relationship survived not winning a license.
Right.
It was a very dark time, but it made us believe in each other, and we actually got married shortly thereafter. So she was going to be the director of resources for Manna Wellness. She's now going to be the director of resources for this new Manna Wellness, and there's going to be a lot of upward mobility for her too. So she's basically kind of helping us with the operations. She's helping recruit the team, get the board of directors aligned, which is really difficult when it's an all volunteer board.
Sure.
And you're trying to pull some really talented people on there.
Right.
So I would like to see her be in the C-level, running the show at some point, and I think I think she'll get there.
You say that you're competitive with her. She's competitive with you. How is it working with your wife?
Oh, it's wonderful. I mean, it's a good spirited competition. It's not we're not stepping over each other.
You actually love each other.
Yeah, we say this often. Super love, and like. And I think it's important to love and like the person that you're with. So
yeah, that is actually almost, if not as important.
Yeah, no, it really is. And
You
I
actually
wouldn't
have to like each other.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, I want to spend time with her, and that's it's not something to be avoided. And I think we have always strived, especially now that we both can attack problems with all of our intellectual resources. We're not pigeonholed into just writing academic papers or doing teaching or doing operations. It's all of it. And I think now with that in mind, it's really made us feel a lot more confident in our abilities, but also made us feel really excited about where we're going with our careers. And we're competitive in the way that, we want to push each other and make each other better. And, we kind of see this as a way to integrate our personal and professional lives totally.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's really freeing. And that's why, when I was back not deciding to go the MBA route or go the lawyer route, that I was hoping something like this would come my way, or that I could create an opportunity to do something like this, because this way I can have, my friends be my partners. And even though that sounds crazy, people tell you not to do that. I think in the cannabis industry, there's, a big exception to that.
Yeah.
A lot of people you've seen, who were there 4 or 5 years ago, really pushing for all these things, and it's blown up to these levels of success that people didn't anticipate, and it's in large part due to a lot of those people doing that background route. But you still see them, and they still remember Massachusetts being such a big sore spot.
Oh, sure.
And they always come up to me and they go, "Oh, is Massachusetts finally doing something now?" And it's like, listen, it's going to be a big state. It's going to be great. They're taking their time.
Calm down.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Calm down. Like, we're still here. We're still doing our thing. And,
Did I just hear, by the way, the New England accent come out with we're still here?
Maybe. I try to disguise it as much as possible.
Interesting. All right, so listen, we are up to I think the 3 final questions.
Okay, 3
So,
finals.
yeah, and so what I'm going to lay them out, and then I'm going to ask you one by one.
Okay.
So the first question is, what has most surprised you in cannabis? The second question is, what has most surprised you in life? And the third question is, on Nial's soundtrack of life, what is one song or one track that's got to be on there?
Okay.
So, but now in order, what has most surprised you in cannabis?
Okay. What has most surprised me in cannabis is how widely accepted it's been in so short of time since coming into popular consciousness. And, I think people like Sanjay Gupta did that with weeds, like as far as the average person.
Weed.
Yeah.
Weeds was the
Weed
HBO
and
thing,
weeds.
yeah.
But I think things like that really brought it. But I also feel like operators going into the communities like we did originally, and like really being open and honest, and it's not something where you can deceive anyone. There's so much money involved, there's so much risk involved. You really have to be open and honest with them and say, like, yes, I plan on making an amazing dispensary and cultivation in your city.
Yes.
What do you think of that? Here's the plans.
Yeah.
Tell me how you would feel about this. go talk to your planning department, come back to me. Like, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Like, this is
Hopefully.
what we'll do. Yeah, this is what we're going to do.
Right.
And, I think that's a really good feeling to be kind of defiant when people, and defiant in a good way with good spirits, not in a way that's contrarian, but in a way that's like, be like, are you really serious about this? It was like, absolutely. Like, this is new and we're going to do it. And we're going to do it so well that you're going to, in 3 years when this is running, you're going to think back to this and think, why did I have, any problems or any doubts at all?
Why was there any preconceived notion?
Yep.
What has most surprised you in life, Niall?
Well, I would have to say my career at present.
That's what's most surprised me about you.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I always had, always went my own way and always had an entrepreneurial spirit. When I was in second grade, I made $1,000 selling polished rocks on the playground.
What?
Yeah, it was crazy. I got kicked out. I didn't get kicked out of school, but I got tagged by the principal for this because the parents of the kids that were giving me their lunch money were asking them, why are you coming home hungry? And they were like, oh, I bought a couple polished rocks off this kid.
Were you polishing the rocks?
No, I was buying them from Pure One Imports.
That's fantastic.
For like 10 cents a
Look
piece.
at you.
Yeah,
Exactly.
No, but I mean, like that was the type of person that I was just, I grew up poor, so I could buy toys that way, and it was fun for me, and that was kind of my mentality.
10 cents. It said 10 cents a rock on the way in. How much on the way out?
I think it was $1.25.
Wait,
so
look at that margin. Amazing.
So they would bring usually $2.50 for the meal ticket at lunch, and they would buy two. It was unbelievable to me how like a shiny object could be attractive.
Literally.
Yeah. It was the easiest money I ever made.
Oh my God. That's
so
fantastic.
yeah, I mean, I try to bring that spirit into cannabis, but less like an actual benefit to the person buying the product instead of just the kind of shininess of the object.
Well, this product's not shiny.
Well, you're right. Nothing shiny about it. It's a workhorse.
Nothing shiny about it except for the magic that it provides.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
All right. So on the soundtrack of Nial DeMena's life.
Yeah, well, I really like The National, and I would pick the album The Boxer, pretty much the whole thing. I'm just a big fan, and when you kind of grow up the way I did, you're challenged a lot, and you kind of, that word ruffian sprinkled throughout his whole thing, and I kind of feel like I lived a very scrappy lifestyle. I was in multiple different groups that weren't always the same. I was jocks, nerds. I was kind of, I even like things like Magic the Gathering, so I kind of had like some
of that.
Yeah, like some like fantasy, sci-fi stuff going on too. So I was just in all these different, and it seemed kind of natural for me to work across strata that normal people don't work across.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think that maybe that album is the soundtrack.
Yeah, I would say it is.
I can see it in the, initially growing up with your mom. I can see it when we maybe didn't win the license the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
no, I mean, you can ask anybody that lost the license in Massachusetts, and there was a lot of heartbreak that spread, but, we stuck with it, and I'll tell you, Massachusetts is going to be one of the best states in the nation to be a cannabis operator and to be making products for. And we hope that, it's the epicenter of our patches and our operating.
The Tom Brady of cannabis,
The
Massachusetts.
Tom Brady of cannabis. I love that.
Nial DeMena.
That
Thank
Manna
you so
feeling.
Much. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, Seth, for having me on. And I had a blast. And this is my first ever podcast. So bring it on. Let's have another one.
All right. Next week.
All right. Sounds good.
So there you have Nial DeMena. A good guy, and the wife he references I had a chance to meet directly after that interview, who is also lovely. I should say she's lovely, and, well, no, not Nial is lovely too. Why can't he be lovely? You heard, Nial DeMena. Thanks so much.